So the first picture you can see is an overhead shot of HMS Kent as she was in 2018. That was the year I decided to that my model would depict the ship. And my second shot is my completed model in a very similar angle to the previous one. If you can study both of them, you can see that I've got a reasonable amount of connection between the two ships in terms of accuracy. Thing I would like to say is I've many times over the years had people say to me, why do you do modern warships? There's nothing to them. They're just a plain lot of sheet steel. Well, I would show you this photo and say to you, is that a lot of sheet steel? Yes, it doesn't have the guns of the older ships, but it most certainly has a lot of missiles, a lot of aerials, and a lot of other standard equipment that all warships have carried for many, many, many years. So I refute the argument that modern ships are very plain. They're not. But that's just my personal opinion, and I'm happy to be challenged on it. Last time I spoke to you, I brought the hull up to completion, and I'm now going to talk about the decks and the upper works. So here you can see an overlay on the structural deck with the superstructure elements marked in. Now, I tried an experiment with Kent. Previously, I'd just taken the structural deck and marked out the structure on that. This time, I thought I'll do another deck, which I will glue to the superstructure deck and then cut out the shape of the superstructure elements. Worked to a fair extent, but I wasn't entirely happy with the result. So it's not an experiment I plan to repeat, and I shall revert back when I've already done so on my next model of taking the structure deck and marking out the upper works on that. Thought I'd mention it in case anybody else tries the same thing and hits the same problems. Here you can see the typical construction of the upper works, and I'm showing here two forms of construction. One is egg box, which is the taller of the two that you can see, and the other one is a plain rectangle infilled with balsa. I use the egg box where the deck on top of it's relatively small, and the other one, the balsa infill, where the deck on it's either fairly large or has got to take a fair amount of other structure on top of it. So I want something that's quite firm underneath. You can see in the left-hand part of the picture the hangar structure, where I've completed the basic structure of it, and it's now ready to be plated. That covers up all the connections of the joints, and the plating carries on slightly above the deck level to form a spurn water. On the model of Kent, in fact all of that class, the angle of the upper works is not vertical, it's all inward. And I decided that I needed to make a template matched to the exact angle of each piece. That way I could be fairly confident that I've got everything correct. On this picture, I'm showing you all the main upper works glued in position, all plated in the form that I've described, and basically ready for painting and other detail to be added. I'm one of these perverse people that even though the bridge is closed in, and the only way you can see it is by looking through the windows, I still like to detail inside the bridge. And I hope you can see the development of it in the first slide. And in the second, it's all finished and painted, ready for its roof to be added. Again, I repeat, nobody can see it without looking through the windows, but it just satisfies me. I have spoken before on the development of the guns, but I thought I'd just show you photographs of the development of them. It's a fairly complex mounting, the Mark 8. It's many sides, all coming together at a lot of strange angles. Unfortunately, my photo doesn't do it entire justice, but I think you can, at least I hope you can see the point I'm trying to make. So I start off with a base plate and add the first sections, the lower sections, onto the base plate. And onto those I glue little tabs that you can see to act as support for the next layer of sheets that have to be put in position. Basically, each and every section has to be very accurately cut before it's put in place. And again, you have to do a few trial runs to make sure it's all going to go together correctly. Very fiddly, and surprising how much time it takes, but for me, well worth it. The foremast tower on most modern warships is a very complicated structure. I make a start by cutting out two pieces which represent a pair of the sides, and then I use a 40 thou plastic card for those. So the next two pieces need to be cut down by the thickness of the plastic card, so that when it's all glued together, you have four sides of equal dimensions. Once it's glued together, I then put it on a flat surface and sand away any excess to give me smooth shapes on all four sides. On Kent, the tower has rectangular angles on the corners. You will find on some warships the corners are rounded. In that circumstance, you have to put some internal stiffeners in the angles so that when you round it, you're still left with a reasonable thickness of material behind. Then there's various platforms to be added. The work at the top to enclose the radar and its machinery. And in the middle picture, you can see the aerial supports jutting out at 45 degrees or thereabouts. There's the tower glued in position, and that really is as far as I need to take it on this particular tour.